July the 16th, 2013. Astronauts Luca Parmitano and Chris Cassidy embark on a planned 6-hour spacewalk to install vital electrical components to the exterior of the International Space Station.
Green light check on Luca's complete. On my way.
But 44 minutes into his tasks, Parmitano gets a sickening surprise.
I feel a lot of water on the back of my head.
And Luca, we copy.
That's a surprise. Surprise during a spacewalk? That's bad.
Cassidy, who's filming the unfolding drama, tries to help his colleague locate the source of the leak.
And I cannot tell you the source.
Chris, looking into Luca's helmet, sees that the water is increasing.
I don't understand where it's coming from. It can't be the water. It has to be the bag.
Their first thought is that it's probably the drinking bag on the inside of the suit, but they're not sure.
Parmitano immediately empties his drinking bag, but the water level in his helmet continues to rise. After 8 minutes, the water reaches his ears.
Feels like a lot of water. I have a feeling that it's increasing.
This is something that nobody is trained for, and we're not sure where the water is coming from, how quickly it's accumulating, and how to deal with it.
It's an entirely new problem for Mission Control, and it takes them time to assess the situation. NASA engineers expect that in zero-G, surface tension will make the water cling to the interior of the helmet. But it doesn't.
Water's in his eyes now, and it seems to be increasing.
And with his head sealed in the spacesuit helmet, it's impossible for Luca to wipe the water away. Mission Control has no choice but to abort the spacewalk.
We think we're going to terminate EVA case for EV2.
As Parmitano makes his way back to the airlock, instead of clinging to the helmet, the water is sticking to his skin. With no gravity to make it fall away, a small quantity could kill him. And the water keeps coming, swelling into a ball which starts to envelop his entire head.
At this point, it's become critical because the water is starting to obstruct his airway. He could try to drink it, but more is going to come take its place, so he's got to constantly fight to keep that airway open.
The ISS is suddenly plunged into darkness as it moves into the Earth's shadow. With water now covering his eyes, the stricken astronaut has to rely on memory and touch to find his way back to the hatch.
Luca heads back to the airlock using his safety line, which is on one side of the International Space Station. Chris Cassidy uses his, which is on the other, so Luca's all alone at this point in time, heading back blind.
You have to keep your cool. It's very simple. If you don't keep your cool, you're going to die. Take your choice.
As Parmitano struggles to enter the hatch, the ISS crew, looking on helplessly through the window, know he potentially only has seconds to live.
Towards the end of this catastrophic spacewalk, there's 1.5 liters of water inside the helmet. If he makes a single mistake, he's dead. There's nothing anyone can do to help him.
By the time the airlock is safe to open, Parmitano has been holding his breath for 2 minutes.
In a critical situation like this, you've got to keep a clear head and do things in order, quickly, efficiently, so you can get the helmet off and save the guy's life.
You honestly have to be very careful. If you do things too fast, you could actually cause worse damage.
Heavy-handed movements could disrupt the astronaut's own efforts to keep the water from getting into his mouth. Even as his colleagues rush to remove the helmet, the lack of gravity means Parmitano has to fight to clear his airways before finally taking a breath.
This is by far the closest we ever came to losing an astronaut during a spacewalk.
The close call prompts NASA to launch a full investigation into the cause of the near-fatal leak.
NASA's figured out that a clogged line in the cooling system caused this, but they haven't figured out how that clog occurred.
After a 5-month investigation, NASA technicians reveal that the blocked line was caused by a lump of inorganic particulate material. But how the material entered Parmitano's airtight spacesuit remains unexplained. In 2012, the space agency's planet hunting team spots something that baffles even them. NASA's Kepler telescope finds 2 planets orbiting a star in the distant Cygnus constellation. But the data from the telescope suggests they're doing something unnatural.
Both planets have been pulled out of the equatorial plane.
The star is spinning like this, and the planets are going around like that. It's all very peculiar.
Planets orbit round the equator of their star because that's where its powerful gravitational grip and rotational force combine to pull together dust and gas, making new worlds. But this star's two companions seem to defy the laws of physics.
Kepler-56 is the first extrasolar planetary system discovered where the plane of the planetary system is very different from the rotation axis of the star.
This observation goes against everything we know about how planetary systems are formed.
And whatever strange force is at work here, it's affecting more than one world.
One planet orbiting out of the equatorial plane of the system is a bit weird. Two planets is insane.
How do you explain planets that are orbiting the wrong way? You have to wonder, are we looking at something else besides conventional planets? Are they really planets? Are they artificial?
If these bodies were artificial, they'd have to be bigger even than the fearsome Death Stars of Star Wars. The engineering involved would be far beyond human technology. But planetary orbits such as these do not happen when planets form naturally.
Something very strange must have happened to these two planets in order to have them both misaligned the same amount from the equatorial plane. That's the hard part to explain. You'd need something with some unholy power to shift it out of an equatorial orbit.
The question is, what could create such a force?
As an alternative to the Death Star hypothesis, planetary scientists have summoned an invisible planet.
And we speculated that there was this additional body further out that was much larger. But we don't know that it is there yet, and we don't know what it is or how far away it is, just that we have a hint that this extra body further out might be true.
This invisible planet, labeled Kepler-56d, would have to be huge, 3 to 4 times the mass of Jupiter. Capable of exerting such an immense gravitational pull that it could compete with the gravity of its own star. Whatever the two rogue objects are, they are doomed. In 130 million years, the star will expand, consuming them both.